Ladies and gentlemen, a very powerful day to you here on 100 Yards of Football. Today, another special deep dive and analysis as Daniel Kelly, the former NFL scout, joins Vincent Turner this morning as they peer into another incredible athlete, a former five-star recruit and towering presence at at 6'4" and 250 pounds. He couldn't have asked for a better start to his career. He was lights out in relief of starter Trevor Lawrence in a win over Boston College and a double overtime loss at Notre Dame in 2020. But in 2021, his first and full-time year as a starter began with legitimate Heisman Trophy hype. It ended with mixed results. This morning, Daniel Kelly and Vincent Turner goes in on DJ Uiagalelei of Clemson Tigers and what must he do to be successful at Clemson. Here on 100 Yards of Football.
If you liked the video this morning, please come in and share it. We'll surely appreciate it here on 100 Yards Football. I'm Mr. Football Vincent Turner, and always joining me is my gentleman, Mr. Daniel Kelly, former NFL scout, studied under Bill Parcells, studied under Bill Belichick. He brings a 110%. So today we're going to highlight, it's the great Mark Bass just said, I'm not going to butcher his name. I'm not even going to try it. I'll call him DJ U, quarterback out of Clemson University. So if you like the video this morning, please come in and share it. Mr. Daniel Kelly, the floor is yours.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Turner. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. It's raining here in Atlanta metro area. They got rain for the next 3 days, and it's been something very, very serious to handle. But other than that, I'm blessed. I just had a birthday this past weekend.
Happy birthday, Mr. Turner.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Happy birthday, Mr. Turner.
Turner. Happy birthday, Mr. Turner. Happy birthday, dear Mr. Turner. Happy birthday to you.
The 901, baby. Let's talk about this great young man from Clemson University, Mr. DJ U.
Absolutely. DJ Uiagalelei. I give it a shot. He is, all the announcers on TV a lot of time call him DJ. You're looking at him there on your screen as Mr. Bass talked about him. 6'4", 250 pounds, nice sized frame there in Clemson. And of course, before I start, as I always say, I'm held accountable to the game film itself. I'm one of the few, if not the only, draft analyst in America that holds himself accountable to the game film. I do not sing with the choir, and I do not get along or go along with the crowd. I looked at him in 2021 against NC State, Pitt, South Carolina, and Georgia, which of course there's not really much better tune-up for the NFL than playing the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, when I looked at him last season, let's unpack the stats to begin with. He was 208 out of 374, 55.6% completion percentage, 2,246 yards on a 6-yard per throw average, 9 touchdowns, and the 10 interceptions. I want to circle back for a moment to the 55.6% completion ratio. That's something a lot of people are going to be talking about. A lot of people are going to be looking at. But in all fairness, when I went back and extensively studied these 4 games, and trust me, if it's a quarterback's fault, I'll be the first person in America to say it. But DJ threw a lot of these passes that were incomplete last year that should have been caught. They were right in the receiver's hands. There was unusually a high amount of drop passes in the 4 games I looked at DJ last season. So that completion percentage, I think, is a tad bit deceptive going forward. Bottom line, this guy is a winner. That's what you're looking for coming out of a winning program. Clemson's only lost 4 games in the last 2 years that he's been there on the roster. Uiagalelei, he resonated with me as an evaluator, and very few of these prospects resonate with me. As I wrote for SI Jets Country, I wrote him up this week. He reminds me kind of a cross, kind of a combination between an RG3 in terms of his instincts and Teddy Bridgewater in terms of his athleticism. Let's unpack him and get deeper into what he looked like on the game film, as I touched on. The positives first. Let's start there. Well, first of all, he's got incredibly strong intangibles, okay? He's got a lot of confidence. He's got a lot of fight. He's got a lot of charisma. He's got a real swag to him. He's got a lot of intangibles that don't show up in the stats. And it just kind of a feel that I get from him as he resonated with me watching him on the game film. This is a very athletic quarterback. This is somebody who's poised in the pocket. He has the mobility and the way about him where he can slide around in the pocket. He can move around, and he's got above average playing speed. Okay, this is not a guy that's going to run away from an NFL defense, but he can pick up yardage on his feet, and he is elusive enough to make the first defender miss, which he consistently showed he could do on the game film. Like that about him as a runner. This is a young man who can roll out. He can throw on the run. And in this way, he's like an RG3 back when he was at Baylor and before pre-injury with Washington, is he can make defenses adjust to him. This is going to be an advantage for him in the NFL when he gets his chance to play, is he gets people moving around. He can run, he can move around, he can slide around, and he can throw the ball, which is something that impressed me about him. His best range in terms of throwing range is in the short range right now, outside the numbers, to the outside perimeter, also to the inside. He occasionally throws some beauties at the intermediate route level, and he has decent placement deep. Even though he didn't complete the passes deep, I like the placement. I like the air he put under the ball. I like the touch that he had on the deep ball, something to keep an eye on as we go forward. The negatives. Now let's flip the coin, heads, tails, right? There's always, there's a glass half empty or half full. Okay, there's negatives with DJ at this point. Like I said, he's not going to outrun a defense, and he was too inconsistent. As Mr. Bass touched on the top of our show, this last 2021 season, there was a lot of Heisman hype heading into the season, but he was too inconsistent during the year with the intermediate and deep game. Again, a lot of drops, and I'm the last person in the world to make an excuse for a prospect, but there was a lot of drops there. But his placement too needs some work now, okay? A lot of his ball placement tends to be on the high side. The ball sails high on him. The next thing I didn't like about what I saw in game film was the hesitancy to pull the trigger in the pocket. This showed up too much for my taste. This is something he's got to work on. Inconsistent touch passes. The biggest thing, if you're an NFL team, a GM, an owner, a scouting director listening to this, looking at DJ Uiagalelei right now, if you're looking at him, the biggest thing that you're going to have to work with him from a quarterback coaching standpoint is his throwing of timing routes. If he can get this cleaned up, everything else will fall in the line like dominoes. But a lot of the passes were too early, too late, behind the receiver, a little too much in front of him. The timing, he's got to get that down. Now, to credit the situation, this is something that a lot of young quarterbacks coming out of college have little to no idea how to do coming into the NFL these days, which is throw timing passes. Hey, Trevor Lawrence has no idea how to throw a timing route to the intermediate level, because a lot of times these receivers, the quarterbacks in college, throw the ball when the receiver's already wide open, standing there. Hey, look at me, throw it to me. He's got to work, DJ's got to work on the timing routes to get that down, which is something I feel that can be corrected. Those are the negatives I saw with him. Overall, guys, I see him. I mean, I don't know what it is, but it's kind of like when I watch Mac Jones for Alabama. It just screamed to me that he was going to be on the New England Patriots. I see DJ Uiagalelei playing for the Baltimore Ravens. That's the thing that kept going through my mind. They love these instinctual type of ball players throughout the years. I can see DJ being a third-round pick. I think he has strong developmental upside, and he looks like a solid number 2 quarterback who can come in behind a Lamar Jackson, can provide a spark type of player. And I will conclude by saying this. I would take DJ Uiagalelei over Trey Lance in San Francisco 7 days a week, okay? Because what he is, he's a better runner in the open field. He's more elusive in the open field. I feel that he has a better arm, and he has way better intangibles. And plus, he played at a much higher level of competition for a winning program at a major school in Clemson. So how high am I in this guy? Listen, normally I live by the game film, but the game film wasn't as impressive in 2021, but I am still, with 40 years experience watching this game, I feel in my gut that DJ Uiagalelei has a lot of upside, and I would go out on a limb for him at this point if I was in an NFL war room. Your thoughts, Vincent Turner, on the young man we see on our screen there, DJ Uiagalelei?
One thing I look at this situation right here, as Mr. Bass said in an introduction. Here was a young man that came on campus at Clemson as a true freshman. Trevor Lawrence junior year. Remember, Trevor Lawrence came down with COVID. And Mr. DJ U went into that Boston College game and threw for 341 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then came back on national television against Notre Dame, 439 yards and 2 touchdowns. Then I'm looking at his high school career. Here's a gentleman that was a 5-star out there in California, Uiagalelei. 4,200 yards, 48 touchdowns, a 5-star prospect. But sometimes when you have situations that happen in major schools, you have a lot of turnover. You're coming into a system. Remember, last year he came into a system where Clemson lost Amari Rodgers to the NFL. They lost Cornell Powell to the NFL. They lost a very good offensive lineman in Jackson Kamen that's with the Cincinnati Bengals right now. So he had a lot of things going on. And most of all, Clemson had a lot of injuries, especially within their offensive line that played very inconsistent. And as you said, Mr. Kelly, their receivers dropped a lot of passes. And their best receiver, Justin Ross, who's in the league right now with the Kansas City Chiefs, was an undrafted free agent. He was coming off a serious injury. And it was really questionable whether he'd continue his career. But he came back, had 47 receptions for 589 yards. But look at the other guys. Frank Lasson, a 5-star recruit, let him down last year. He's at Miami now. Joseph Naga, another 5-star out of California, let him down. Bo Collins, average. Then you're looking at the running back position. Look what he had last year. He had Will Shipley. The guy's going to be an outstanding player, no question about it. He was a true freshman last year. But he was hurt. And he didn't have a Travis Etienne. So this guy had so many things going around him. A Clemson team that had injuries. Offensive line wasn't healthy. And then if you want to prove my point, the bowl game that Clemson played against Iowa State, they only had 28 healthy scholarship players. So there's a young man, granted, he only threw for 2,100 yards, 9 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. But to me, he's still a top NFL talent. Because as you gentlemen just said, the size. He can make all the NFL throws. But what killed me was the media. People at Clemson. Even the national media. Then I saw something the other day on another NFL draft site. Says that he's an undrafted free agent. Come on, man. Team had a lot of injuries last year. You only had 28 scholarship players to play in the bowl game. But think about this. Through all that, Clemson still won 10 games. But I'm going to tell you something. I hope Mr. DJ U takes this advice. See, when you have a media that pumps you up so much, and then they want to kill you when you got so many other things going around you, it's a song by The Undisputed Truth. Smiling faces pretend to be your friend. show no traces of evil within. Can you dig it? Okay, Archie Manning, 1967, went up to Tennessee and threw 5 interceptions. The following year, a linebacker by the name of Steve Canner called the Ole Miss football team Muse. You know what happened? Archie Manning took that smiling face. Ole Miss 38, Tennessee 0. Then here locally, Jerry Glanfield. I never liked you anyway because I didn't think you can coach. He let a guy he took in the second round in 1991 out of Kenya, Mississippi, and trade him to the Green Bay Packers. Smiling faces, pretend to be your friend, show no traces of evil within. Well, you know what? Brett Favre now worth $100 million, Super Bowl champion, and 3-time MVP. Then I'm going to move on to Doug Williams, former first-round pick, 1978 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who covered house. In 1982, you didn't want to pay Doug Williams. You didn't even want to give him $600,000. At the time, he was making $120,000. The lowest starting paying quarterback in the NFL. But you were smiling faces, pretend to be your friend. So Doug Williams walked. But you know what? January the 31st, 1988, Super Bowl MVP, 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards. You see what I'm saying? It's always this media want to throw somebody under the bus. But this young man's a football player. And finally, back in 1955, a young man was a 9th round pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was the odd man out. Had to go up and play, I want to call it sandlot football. It wasn't even a pro league. But the Baltimore Colts saw something in him. And his name with the Black Hat House was Johnny Unitas. See, like Undisputed Truth would tell you, and I hope Mr. DJ U realizes this, he's going to bounce back. Clemson has got so much talent. They got 37 returning lettermen. If they stay healthy, they will be in the chase for a national championship. The thing of it is, the other parts have to play well for him to be well this year. But make no bones, we go through bumps in our lives. Things are not going to go our way. Last year, a young man came under a lot of criticism, but he showed me something. Even though he struggled, even the own media at Clemson was killing him. The same ones that was patting him on his back. But he stood in there. And I think he's going to bounce back in a high level. A young man doesn't throw 4,200 yards and 48 touchdowns a senior year and don't become a 5-star prospect and play at John Bosco, one of the top programs in America as far as high school football. A young man doesn't replace Trevor Lawrence and have 2 games where he throws over 350 yards. Then comes on national television against Notre Dame. But see, at that time, that Clemson team had Travis Etienne. They had Amari Rodgers. They had Cornell Powell. They had Jackson Keenan. Their offensive line was healthy. Think about last year. You could even tell in the game against Georgia that Clemson was going to struggle a little bit offensively because they were starting 2 new receivers, and their offensive line could not handle the Bulldogs' defensive line. We saw what Georgia did, put 15 players in the NFL draft and had, 4 or 5 drafted in the first round. Lewis Sin, Quay Walker, Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt. And that young man stood up to that, and he struggled, no question about it. But you know what? Mr. DJ U, take all them names I just gave to you, and I just stated here on 100 Yards Football. Johnny Unitas, Archie Manning, Doug Williams, Brent Favre. Everybody had counted them out. But like the Undisputed Truth, smiling faces, pretend to be your friend, showing no traces of evil within. Can you dig it? I got a lot of confidence in DJ U. I love him as a football player. And as you said, Mr. Kelly, he's got a hell of a coach in Dabo Swinney. Clemson will be back this year. I guarantee it. And his numbers will improve, and he will go into the NFL draft as a high pick. Final words, Mr. Daniel Kelly, about this young man from Clemson University.
Absolutely, Mr. Turner. Some real good thoughts, and let's keep in mind too that Georgia game they only lost 10-3, so DJ kept them in that game as well, even with all those factors. Funny story, really quickly. The other night, my wife Samantha and I were at an Italian restaurant in Key West, Florida, and the waiter actually his sister was married to Johnny Unitas. So you're talking small world. So you're talking about Johnny Hightops. I'm thinking about our waiter the other night whose sister was married to him. But this is a good opportunity. Final thoughts on DJ Uiagalelei. This is a really good opportunity for me to unpack this for a quick second. Is the importance of intangibles. Okay, is we get so caught up in the scouting community with all this jargon and all these scouting terms, and we look at all the stats and what's this and what's that, and can he make all the throws? Listen, you touched on something very important there, Mr. Turner. It is the way the media has kind of turned on him and his ability to stand in there. There's something special about him, okay? This is what happened to Jimmy Garoppolo, who's one of the only quarterbacks in the NFL that's won over 70% of his games. They want to run him out of town on the next airplane, okay? We see what happens with the incredibly talented Deshaun Watson. We see these great star quarterbacks and the kind of scrutiny they come under for whatever reason. Tim Tebow's another one. They come under this tremendous scrutiny. Okay, this scrutiny is only going to improve and make DJ Uiagalelei a better quarterback. This is part of the intangibles I'm talking about. His ability not only to withstand the pressure in the pocket, but withstand the pressure of the media. We are watching a leader being born more and more. And when he's standing up to this kind of pressure in the media, this is a young man who's showing a lot of poise. This is something teams look for. This is something, let me rephrase that. This is something winning teams look for. This is something that the New England Patriots look for. This is something the Baltimore Ravens look for. This is something that the teams look for that want a quarterback with a lot of intangibles. He's coming into the NFL, again, off a winning program, and I don't think we can underestimate that, okay? Listen, I don't put my name on very few guys, okay? And I came out with this tweet this week that's got over 24,000 views on the video and over 140,000 impressions. I said he's better than Trey Lance on my Twitter, okay? I don't do this lightly. I'm an aspiring general manager. I don't play around with this stuff. But DJ Uiagalelei has the it factor, and to me, he's impressive, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do in the upcoming 2022 college football season as we go into the 2023 NFL draft, Mr. Turner.
If you like the video today, please come in and share it. We surely appreciate it here on 100 Yards Football. Special thanks to our producer, Mr. Logan Landis, for making it happen this morning. Thank you to the young man that brought us up, Mr. Mark Bass. It's very simple. So you could kick a man down when he's struggling. But see, greatness is defined by how you come back. All Mr. DJ you got to do is listen to that song, Undisputed Truth. Smiling faces. Concentrate on football, young man, because you got all the skill level. This is a guy that can make all the NFL throws. Big, strong. Mr. DJ you, remember what I'm saying. I.T. Manning. Brent Favre, Doug Williams, Johnny Unitas. The media killed them, but you saw how they bounced back. Jerry Glanville, that's why I didn't like you as a coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Hey, if you like the video, please come in and share it. It's been a pleasure and an honor this morning here on 100 Yards of Football.